Welcome back to College Football Action. Today we're going to take a dive into one of the most fascinating grassroots proposals that I've ever come across. A full-blown promotion and relegation system in college football. Yes, very much like European soccer, but in the Big Ten. Now, if you don't follow European soccer, essentially the teams at the bottom of every league every year can potentially be relegated down to the next level. And teams at the top of the second division could be promoted to the top level if they perform well enough. It keeps teams engaged and doesn't get in this problem we have right now of college football where the bottom feeders of every conference are perpetually always the same. This idea comes from a recent YouTube video, not by a former journalist or a former coach, but a passionate fan named David. I'll link his video and try and give you guys the full picture so that you can give him credit for the work if you like it. His goal was to grab the attention of big-time college football news folks or podcasters, analysts, to consider an alternative system for structuring super conferences. And honestly, it's not that crazy. The video outlines a hypothetical future where the Big Ten expands to 24 teams, and instead of divisions or pods, they're split into two leagues, a promoted league and a relegated league, based on their recent performance. Think of it as like the best 12 teams on one side, based on a couple of years of conference records. They play in the top of the league. The other 12, they're in the bottom of the league, trying to fight to move up. Now, the genius here is in the simplicity. Every 2 years, teams would be evaluated and moved accordingly. You play a 9-game conference schedule, 5 against your division and 3 against the other division in your league, and 1 cross-league game to preserve rivalries. The structure supports home and away balance, clean tiebreakers, and best of all, real stakes for mid-tier teams. Now, you might not be playing for a national title, but there's certainly importance that is elevated because you're fighting to not be relegated or to move up and be promoted. It also solves a huge scheduling problem conferences like the Big Ten and the SEC are facing right now, with teams growing by the day of how many are in each conference. How do you balance competition? How do you preserve rivalries and keep fan engagement high across the board? Okay, let's get into how the nuts and bolts of this would actually work, because the video isn't just a concept. He actually took the time to build out a full working model using a 24-team Big Ten, along with real data. So here's how it breaks down. The Big Ten is expanded to 24 teams. It starts with the current 18 and then adds 6 new schools. Now, his reasoning for adding these schools you may agree with, you may disagree with. That's not important. Eventually, we all know that conferences are going to grow, and here's the teams that he put in. The 18 original, and then Florida State, Miami, North Carolina, Kansas, Kansas State, and Iowa State. Now, when you look at the conference records for each team, they are organized like this when you consider the last 2 years. Based on these records, and they are just a projection because some of these teams obviously were not in the Big Ten when they played them, you could split the teams into 2 12-team leagues, a promoted division and a relegated division. Now, within each of these leagues, there are 2 divisions of 6 teams each, East and West. It would be the easiest way to do this. Promoted just means you're in the top performing group, and relegated means that you're in the bottom 12. Every 2 seasons, the team's records would be reviewed, specifically for their 2-year conference records. This is how we might start, but based on the results, teams may move up or down between the leagues. In the first cycle, 5 teams were promoted and 5 teams were relegated. These were his simulated records after 2 years of playing in the promoted and the relegated divisions. You'll see that Kansas, Wisconsin, Minnesota, UNC, and Southern Cal all moved up, while Florida State, Kansas State, Illinois, Miami, and Indiana moved down. In this example, USC and Kansas moved up while others moved down, but it's not a strict one up, one down formula. In the model, the creator just re-baselined everything every 2 years using actual win percentages, which is the cleanest way to allow for movement. Now, here's the part I think is actually brilliant. The 9-game conference schedule. Here's how it's built. You get 5 games against your own division. Obviously, in each division, there's an East and a West. So you play the other 5 games in your division. You play 3 games against the opposite division in your own league, rotated over the cycle. And then you use one cross-league game to preserve rivalries. So if Michigan and Michigan State ended up in different leagues, they could still play each other every year using that 9th game slot. The model rotates who gets the extra home game each year, alternating between the promoted and the relegated teams to keep balance. Using Oregon as an example, we can see how he does this. But some of our cross-conference rivalries would be really important. Kansas and Kansas State, Illinois and Purdue, Michigan and Michigan State, all kept in balance so that we continue to see those games. We look at Oregon as the example and see who they would play. Their first 8 games, using Oregon again, would be against Florida State, Michigan, Penn State, Iowa State, Iowa, Washington, Kansas State, and Illinois. The next year, they'd play a different set of teams. They'd play the teams in their division, Iowa State, Iowa, Washington, Kansas State, and Illinois again. But then they'd play Ohio State, Miami, and Indiana to continue to rotate. You'd play everybody that was promoted every 2 years. Same with relegation. You'd play everybody that was relegated every 2 years. And then it would flip back. We would take the next 2 years worth of results and we would reorder the league as promoted or relegated. There's no playoff to move up or down, no committee, no conference bias, just conference records over 2 seasons. And if 2 teams are tied at the promotion relegation line, the team that was previously in the promoted league gets to keep their spot. That way, a borderline relegated team has to have clearly outperformed to get a spot in the promoted league. This keeps the system fair while still allowing for meaningful change. He even tweaks alignments for geography and rivalries. For example, he moved Michigan State west in one cycle just to keep Indiana and Purdue intact. You can tell he really thought out how to make this feel authentic and respectful of tradition, as much as possible anyway. This isn't some fantasy land system. It's a working model with logic, historical data, and a true path forward. Let's give credit where it's due here. David really thought this through. It rewards on-field performance over brand name, which is probably my favorite part. It levels scheduling and TV value. No more of this Oklahoma playing an insanely tough schedule while Missouri gets a very easy one. You play the teams that are of a similar level to you. And it also builds drama at both the top and the bottom of the standings. Listen, you're fighting to not be relegated anymore, or you're fighting to keep from being relegated. It is a future-proof expansion. You could scale this up to 36 teams and still have very clean divisions. And believe it or not, it doesn't cut relegated teams out of playoff contention. If you're relegated and you go 12-0, you're still getting in the playoff. But here's where it gets tricky. First of all, this is a radical departure from the college football that we know. Traditionalists would hate it. Several of you are going to litter these comments, people from schools like Michigan or Ohio State and Alabama and other big-time programs saying, man, what if they had a down cycle and got relegated? Their boosters would riot. Secondly, TV networks do want stability. The current deals are built around predictable matchups. Ohio State versus USC, for example, not Ohio State versus Rutgers. Third, what about recruiting? Would top talent still sign with schools in the relegated league? And finally, schools starting in the bottom tier would scream about lost revenue and exposure. And that might be a lawsuit waiting to happen. So let's play the hypothetical out. Could this ever happen? If a conference went nuclear on expansion, say the Big Ten ballooned to 28 or 32 teams, the old division model would collapse under its own weight. You would need a new structure. A promotion relegation system offers a merit-based hierarchy and flexibility. And let's face it, we already rank teams weekly. We obsess over strength of schedule and argue about tiers every offseason. This would just make it official. But could it actually be adopted? Now, I'll say this. I doubt in the short term we get anything like this. But long term, if media rights evolve and fans demand better schedules, maybe. just maybe somebody will pitch this idea as serious in a boardroom. David, you did a great job with this video. Hats off. It's rare to see a proposal this detailed, grounded in real records, and built with a love for the game. This is how change starts, not from ESPN's headquarters or Fox's headquarters, but from fans thinking big. Every year, we seem to complain about teams that refuse to get better. Think about the top teams in every conference, whether it's Texas and Georgia and Alabama, or Florida State, Clemson and Miami, Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State. You look at the other programs in your league and you think, man, they're not pulling their weight. Well, by not pulling your weight in this, there would be serious consequences. The haves would likely always remain the haves, and the have-nots would always remain the have-nots. But there would be a lot of incentive if you're a mid-tier team to continue to invest in your athletic department and in your football program to make sure that you are in that promoted division. Whether or not this ever becomes real, the promotion relegation model sparks the kind of debate that we need in college football. Because let's be honest, bloated leagues, unbalanced schedules, and brand-based revenue sharing aren't making the game better for fans. This model tries to fix that, and I respect the effort a ton. Would a Premier League style system work in college football? Who would thrive? Who would fall? Drop your takes in the comments and be sure to subscribe to College Football Addiction, where we will bring you our very best coverage of the college football season in 2025. Fun theories like this and debates that live where Saturdays mean everything. Until next time, we'll see you soon on College Football Addiction.